Marvel Strike Force is an amazing game. So good in fact that 4 months ago, I made the decision to completely abandon my account and start over. And I quickly discovered that something was different. Very, very different. I was gaining levels at a ridiculous pace. So fast in fact, that despite all my experience, I was struggling to keep up. And even though the XP rate has been adjusted to allow new players to transition through the content at a much more reasonable rate, it's still pretty fast, and it can get a little bit overwhelming. So I thought I'd use the experience I've gained to put together some tips for new and mid-game players looking to progress their accounts as fast as possible. I'm going to try and keep this video relatively short, but if you want an in-depth explanation of any of the topics in this video, let me know in the comments below. With all that said, let's get into it. So starting off with tip number 1, and it's a pretty simple tip, but one I see a lot of players neglecting, and that is to create a Scopely account. Creating and linking a Scopely account not only allows you to keep your progress safe, it also allows you to collect free claims and milestone rewards every day. Everyone likes free stuff. Alright, tip number 2, join a good alliance. Finding an active alliance that suits your playstyle is extremely important. Some game modes and events require the whole alliance to participate. The more active the alliance, the more rewards for all players. Tip number 3, use as many 50 core energy refreshes per day as possible. This will allow you to farm more campaign nodes and, more importantly, level up faster. Certain game modes, stores and features are locked behind level requirements, so leveling up as fast as possible is a massive priority. Tip number 4, and this is probably the most important tip I could give you. Concentrate on farming and building your raid teams. This should be your number 1 priority above everything else. Your gold, training materials, ability materials, ISO 8, campaign energy, store credits, all of it should be spent primarily on raid characters. As you progress through the harder raids, you will start to encounter trait restrictions on certain nodes. This means you must build a Mystic team, a Tech team, Mutant team, Bio team, and a Skill team. The current raid teams are Bifrost for Mystic, Pegasus for Tech, Extreme X-Men for Mutant, Hive Mind for Bio, and Spider Society for Skill. On the screen is an infographic showing where to find the raid characters that are available and also what ISO class to use, as well as what unique piece of gear is required to level up that character, which is a perfect segue to my next tip. Tip number 5, farm teal unique pieces early and often. If you plan to take your raid teams to gear tier 17 or 18, and you should, then farming their unique pieces of gear is essential. Let's use Gambit as an example. Gambit's unique piece of gear is Tempered Osmium. To take Gambit from gear tier 15 to gear tier 16, you will need 18 teal pieces of Tempered Osmium, 22 pieces for gear tier 17, and 25 pieces for gear tier 18. That's 65 pieces total. However, Gambit isn't the only raid character that requires Osmium. Nightcrawler, Val, and Iron Man Infinity War all require the same unique piece as Gambit. So that's 4 raid characters that require Tempered Osmium. And if you want to take them all to gear tier 18, you will need a whopping 260 teal Tempered Osmium. Now, it might not be necessary to take all of these characters to gear tier 18, depending on where you are in the game, but you get my point. You're gonna need a lot of teal unique pieces, especially Osmium and Alien Spores. So the sooner you start farming these, the better. Alright, moving on to tip number 6. Now, while unique pieces will be one of the biggest bottlenecks you will face, gold and training materials will also be a huge priority. Aside from the regular ways of earning gold and training materials, there are some campaign nodes that you will want to prioritize unlocking as soon as possible. These campaign nodes reward gold and training orb fragments respectively. The nodes that give out gold orb fragments are Heroes Hard Mode nodes 4-6, 5-6, and 7-6. Alternatively, training orb fragments are rewarded on Villains Hard Mode nodes 4-6, 6-6, and 7-6. Once you unlock these nodes, I would suggest to farm them every day if possible. Sticking with resources for tip number 7, and I'm going to lump a few of these together as they all pertain to the stores. If you find yourself running low on ability materials, the main store is a decent place to farm blue and purple ability materials. Unique pieces can also be farmed in the main store, Raid Store, War Store, and Crucible Store. However, as always, farming raid characters should always be your number one priority. I also briefly want to touch on the ISO 8 store. Obtaining enough green and blue ISO to take all of your raid teams to blue ISO 4 should be a big priority for new and mid-game players. This is because as you progress through the more difficult raids, you will eventually start doing incursion raids. And the later incursion raids are restricted to characters that have blue ISO 4. On the screen is an infographic showing how many of each of the ISO you will need to level up all of the current raid characters to blue ISO level 4. As an example, to level up a blaster character to green ISO level 5, it takes 81 of each of the damage, health, armor, resistance, and focus categories. Spread out across the 5 raid teams, there are 6 blasters. Therefore, you will need to obtain 486 blaster ISO for each of those categories. I know this can be a lot to take in, so I'll simplify it a little bit and suggest that you buy 100 of each piece, then 200, then 300, and so on. If you need a basic introduction to ISO 8, I'll leave a link in the description to a video that can help you out. Okay, that's most of the heavy stuff out of the way. Tip number 8. Only open red star orbs when the drop rate for dark promotion credits is 10 times. Certain special characters such as Black Knight, Quicksilver, and others can only have their red stars upgraded using dark promotion credits, so waiting until the drop rate is 10 times is very important. My suggestion is to open red star orbs during the 10 times dark promotion credit window and use elite 4, 5, and 6 star orbs for new character releases, while saving elite 7 star orbs to be converted into silver diamond credits. Tip number 9. Once you unlock Cosmic Crucible at level 60, the game will give you a standard defense team for each room. Only replace these defense teams when you have enough offense teams to safely clear all of your opponent's rooms. Too often I see players that have replaced the defense team with a team that is much weaker. Don't be this guy. Finally, tip number 10. Forget about Apocalypse. Now, this might be a bit of a controversial one, so if you disagree with me, leave me a comment and let me know your thoughts. But I strongly believe that new and mid-game players have more important things to focus on than going for Apocalypse. Don't get me wrong, I want to unlock him eventually, but until I've completed my raid teams, it's not something I'm even thinking about. Unlocking Apocalypse requires you to put a substantial amount of investment into 23 characters, most of which have lost their relevance in the meta, not to mention the ridiculous blue ISO requirements. So my plan is to continue building my raid teams, and once the new Mystic raid team comes out, if they still haven't changed the requirements to unlock Apocalypse, then I will start the grind. However, I have a strong feeling that Scopely will make some significant changes in the future regarding the Apocalypse unlock, because as of now, it makes very little sense for any new or even mid-game player to unlock him. Which is not a good thing, as Apocalypse is one of the strongest characters in the game, and almost a necessity to unlock the 2 best characters in the game in Super Skrull and Mephisto. So come on, Scopely, help the new players out. Alright, that pretty much does it for today's video. I got a bunch more tips, but the video would go on forever. So if you want to see a part 2, let me know in the comments below. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your alliance, and don't forget to subscribe for more Marvel Strike Force content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.